What's up guys, Americana back here with another video. Everybody is watching the Russell 2000 breakout, but the real signal is what's happening when we compare it to the S&P 500. I'm talking about the S&P 500 to Russell 2000 ratio, and it's a setup we've only seen 3 times in the past decade. So let's get into the video. All right, everybody, if you are going to watch one video this week, it should be this one. I had to apologize to my private clients for giving this chart away for free because I really think it is that good. So just bear with me. Let's get into it. Let's talk about what's going on. I know it looks a mess. So the S&P 500 priced in the Russell 2000. So in the numerator, we have S&P 500. In the denominator, we have the Russell 2000. So when this chart is going up, that means the S&P 500 is outperforming the Russell 2000. When this chart is going down, this is when we start to see the Russell 2000 outperform the S&P 500. We know we've talked about the importance of a Russell 2000 breakout, what that means in the sense of liquidity, what the market is like, and things like that. But to go even further than that, when the Russell 2000 is outperforming the S&P 500 at all, crypto will do well. It will do well. And that's what we have on this entire chart. That's why it's so messy. I've just simply gone on the monthly time frame and marked out any time we've had a MACD cross, signaling that the S&P 500 has begun to be outperformed by the Russell 2000. So we are going to start on the left-hand side. Obviously, every time we've got one of these, crosses or red monthly candle closes on the MACD, it has performed very well for crypto. I'm looking at the small lines here. And then obviously in blue here, we do have Bitcoin. So cross, Bitcoin goes up, cross, Bitcoin goes up. And then we have a cross of momentum to the upside, signaling that the S&P 500 has begun to outperform the Russell 2000 again. And what did this mark? Top. It doesn't always have to be long periods of time. It can be quick flips. But what happens in here, right? We have the S&P 500 or the Russell 2000 start to outperform the S&P 500, and Bitcoin's actually able to find a bottom in that window. All right. We have here. So I'm going to ignore these thicker lines for now. And once we go through all of these smaller lines, then I will remove them and we'll talk about the beginning of this video. I mentioned 3 times in the past decade we've seen this signal, and those 3 times are marked out on this chart. But Bitcoin able to find a bottom in this little window is here. We're going to skip those thick ones. Russell 2000 gets outperformed by the S&P 500 in here, right? We cross to the upside. What do we get? Massive dump and then bear market bottom on Bitcoin. But what happens when we uncross, when momentum shifts again? I'm supposed to be skipping those, but we get Altseason, we get the top of the Bitcoin market, things like that. Back to the skinny lines here. Again, S&P or Russell 2000 starts outperforming the S&P 500. Another scenario where we find a bottom. So I can even use this another way to the downside, using it to find bottoms. And then another period where the Russell 2000 starts to outperform the S&P 500. I know this doesn't look like anything crazy on the Bitcoin chart, but this is November of 24 to February 3rd of 25. I don't know why it's showing that. So this is November, where we had a little mini alt season, right? XRP went absolutely insane. And all of that kind of topped out once Trump took office January 25th, which coincides with that February date. And we also had a cross back to the upside on this chart. Okay. So now the alpha everybody has been waiting for, and I will probably be talking about this chart more often now that I have found it. Not more often, but I will be bringing it back up. The signal I said has only flashed 3 times in the past decade. Why are these bars thicker than what we previously were looking at? We are still basing it on momentum. We're looking at the crosses down. We're looking at the crosses up. So we're still basing it on momentum, right? We're looking at the crosses down, we're looking at the crosses up, but these are a little bit different because these also coincide. This cross to the downside, right? Cross to the downside, meaning that the Russell 2000 is outperforming the S&P 500. This one is special because during this time we were getting the Russell 2000 just had a monthly close or had closed above the previous all-time high. Same for this area in here. The Russell 2000 had closed above its previous all-time high. And again, what did we just have last month, the month of October? We had the Russell 2000 finally break out and close above its all-time high. As in the same time frame, we are getting crosses again. What has this led to for the three signals that we do have here? This is January of 2013, so we don't have altcoins. We did get Dogecoin, but that was until like bear market of 14. But we did get blow off top in Bitcoin. Literally Bitcoin in the area that it was breaking above its previous all-time high and blow off top in Bitcoin. Then obviously we got to wait a few years before we get this again. This is the Russell 2000 outperforming the S&P 500 while the Russell 2000 is going for a monthly breakout of its previous all-time high. So again, what do we see here? This is August of 16. This kicked off the entire move to the upside. We finally had altcoins in here. We had two altcoin seasons in 2017. This is both of them all captured within this window. This is Ethereum taking off. This is, what else do we have? Dash, Litecoin, that type of stuff. XRP, all going crazy in this time, as well as Bitcoin. What do we have in this cycle? Same thing. November, December of 2020 is when things started getting hot in the altcoin market. So we are potentially well within the window where we could be seeing what we want to see happen. Like I said, we historically look at it for altcoins, for extra liquidity, things like that, but we can also use we can use the altcoins taking off to look for tops. But we also just kind of want to know, are we within a window where is this a bullish window? Is this a bearish window? And especially adding on the fact, not only do we have the crosses on higher time frame momentum, but we also have the fact that the Russell 2000 broke out, guys. The Russell 2000 broke out, and that's only happened 3 times in the past. And then when you combine that with this chart, it's marked it out perfectly. I mean, to a T. If you looked at a chart and you're like, okay, when did Altseason happen in 2020? When did that kick off in the 21 cycle? You'd probably point to November of 2020. If you looked at Ethereum and things going crazy in here, you'd probably point about to August of 2016. Right? So that's my point. I think it puts us well within a window, and I think it even goes further than that. This is a pretty tight view to have on the market. And also too, guys, like I said, I'm going to be bringing it up again, but it also marks out tops. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be to a T. Even what we've experienced now, and even in here, we had pullbacks, we had shakeouts, we had fear in the market at times, but it doesn't mean that you should get bearish during those times. It means you're within the window that something amazing is about to happen. Also, being within that window, you have to have the understanding that it's going to flip to the upside, and you probably need to be out of the market before that happens. You can't rely on this to Pico nail the top. It's done a decent job, right? This is October of 21 into November, so kind of, I'll say that pretty much did nail the top if it got the cross in November of 21. January of 18, pretty close to the top. I guess my point is you don't want to fully rely on just one thing flipping on and off to be overly bullish or overly bearish, but you do have to have the understanding that you're within the window that something really good can happen. So this was kind of a short video for a chart this powerful, but I think it speaks for itself for the most part. It's very easy to set up if you guys want to mess with this as well. Literally just go to your chart, S&P 500 divided by Russell 2000, enter. If you want to add stuff after that, you can Bitcoin, add whatever you want to add to mess with it, whatever indicators you want to add here on the bottom. There's a few more charts outside of this that if need be, I'll bring them up, but for now, I do have to keep private. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope you guys found this chart useful as well. I hope you guys understand how serious I take it when something like the Russell 2000 breaks out, when it starts outperforming things like the S&P 500. This is a really big deal. We've seen it 3 times before, This is not, you guys, the market makers cannot hide this from you. They cannot manipulate this. They can't send Bitcoin down to take out a fresh low and you get scared and you paper hand your trade. This is, really kind of its own data on its own. When you start doing these ratios and stuff like that, it's like a switch flipping on and on. Risk on, risk off, risk on, risk off, this, that, this phase of the cycle, that phase of the cycle, right? It's not so much price targets and TPs and things like that. Anyways, I hope you guys found this useful. I hope you guys are out here staying strong. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Soon. We're close. I can feel it. This chart shows it. See you guys in the next one.